Okay, let's try this again. Make sure this thing is live. Video is starting. Are you coming on this time or what? There we go. All right, I went through half of this thing. I was down to female, and I turned and looked, and it wasn't working. I don't know what's going on. What's up with Facebook? I might have to try to just go to something else like YouTube or something and start doing this. But today is Aurum Metallicum. Yesterday was Aurum Arsenicum, Bromatum, and Iodatum. So those three, arsenicum, bromatum, and iodatum, they weren't proven. So they just, they gave you some of the different things. But like Aurum arsenicum had the depression of Aurum or gold, and arsenic and the anxiety of arsenic. And then Aurum bromatum has certain things, and Aurum iodatum. Today is Aurum metallicum. If they would prove those medicines, it would have a lot of this in there where it barely had any uh, description of what that medicine could do. It had some, and some of them used them, they used them for some of the some different sicknesses, and it worked. But yeah, it's not they're not normal ones that you would use, but they could come in handy at a certain time. So Aurum metallicum, the soul of the alchemist. Soul is sun. So they figured it was the son of the alchemist. So the soul of the alchemist. This use of gold as an anti-venereal for venereal disease, an anti-scrofulous, scrofulous is tuberculosis remedy, is very ancient, but has been forgotten until rediscovered by homeopathy. So they were using gold for these two different things, tuberculosis and venereal disease, but it was lost. And homeopathy came and rediscovered it. Once Hahnemann did his experiment with chicona bark and figured whatever will make sure this is working. Whatever will make you sick will cure you, because they were curing malaria with chicona bark, and he basically took it himself until he got malarial symptoms, and he realized whatever will make you sick, whatever substance will make you sick, by taking it will also cure it. So if you took gold internally, you'd get a lot of these symptoms, and it'll also heal those symptoms homeopathically. Gold affects profoundly the entire organism, exercising a solvent action on the tissues. Solvent mean it dissolves, warts and, bone things and different things that are going wrong, producing ulcerations and disappearance of new growths. So it can produce ulcerations, and it can also get rid of those growths. Hence, it is one of the best antidotes to mercurial overdosing, and especially in cases of syphilis, scrofula, and decay of bones. Also find it's in a Aurum a remedy. So back then they were using mercury to cure syphilis and scrofula, tuberculosis, and they were using mercury in substance, not homeopathically, which was basically poisoning people. And it also, this is Aurum metallicum, is good for overcoming that poisoning from it. So they were it antidote to mercurial overdosing. So if you were taking too much mercury, you went to a allopathic doctor, and they were giving you mercury for your syphilis or your tuberculosis, and you overdosed on that. You went to a homeopath, said, "Man, this stuff ain't working. They're killing me." They would give you Aurum metallicum to overcome that mercury poisoning, and it would definitely be good for your syphilis and your tuberculosis. It also produces rushes of blood and hemorrhages. So anywhere, like with this remedy, their face would be hot and flushed, and their hands and feet would be cold. So Aurum metallicum would help with that if you saw that in a patient. Shelton, a homeopath, has recorded as effects on girls working with gold leaf. So that gold leaf, like Trump just put all that gold stuff in the White House. Well, that's all gold leaf. And these girls were working with it, producing gold leaf or painting gold leaf on different things. The occurrence of a thick leucorrheal discharge, not offensive, didn't smell, white or yellowish, occasionally profuse, invariably worse by walking. So that leucorrhea would get worse by them walking. Okay, so Aurum metallicum, which is gold. Acute mental depression, that's a 3. This is a great depression remedy. Hopelessness, profound depression. They have all this depression going on. And I'll get to caused by tendency to suicide and longing for death. This would have probably helped. And it's definitely, well, let's get into it. Worse from sunset to sunrise. They wake up, all their symptoms are worse. They go when the sun goes down, their symptoms get better. That's a big keynote. That's a 3. Better by cooled open air. That's in dyspnea when they can't catch their breath. They can't get the air they need. They want to get out in cold open air. But it's better by becoming warm. So when they get in and they get warm, their symptoms seem to get better. Worse from cold weather. So that's why they want to become warm. They don't want, they don't like that cold weather, and they don't like cloudy weather. And I remember girls that were in my church, they said, we're going to California because Pittsburgh's usually overcast. They say this overcast is making us depressed, so they don't like cloudy weather. Aurum Metallicum might have helped them young ladies. The causations are grief, any kind of grief, loss of, somebody or something, fright, anger, disappointed love, loss of property. And this disappointed love, they say, for pining boys. And the pine is the pine over the loss of the love of a woman. So loss of property. This is a big one, loss of property. When they were jumping out of windows in 1932 or whatever it was, when that crash happened, they were all lost all their money. They were jumping out of windows. They lost their property. Aurum Metallicum probably could have helped a lot of them not jump out of those windows. Prolonged anxiety. So someone that's trying to put a deal together, or trying to, just their life is anxious. They have a lot of anxiety in their life and it's prolonged. Aurum Metallicum might help them with that depression and all that going on. Hopeless grief. Hopeless grief. So they just, whatever a person they lost or whatever grief they've got going on, they just feel very hopeless. That's a 3. Disgust for life. They're like, I can't take it no more. Talks of committing suicide. That's a 3. At least they're talking about it. Some people just go commit suicide without talking about it. But this person's talking about suicide, and they're hypersensitive to noise. Those are all 3s. Aurum Metallicum would help with that hopeless grief, disgust for life, committing suicide, and all that stuff. Ascites with heart disorder. So they got pain in their abdomen and with heart disorders. And I know when I have a lot of gas, in my stomach, my heart aches. So yeah, and they got colic, swelling of inguinal glands, and hernia of inguinal glands. So like my wife had a hernia. Now, Aurum Metallicum could be one of the remedies for an inguinal hernia. Now, my wife had a hernia, and I told a guy, I said, yeah, I gave my wife lead lycopodium for a hernia. Now, when I looked it up, all I had was right-sided hernia. And that, it can be that quick to get a medicine. Right-sided hernia, I looked under abdomen, hernia, right-sided, and lycopodium was a 3. It was a big one. When I say 3, it was a bold letters, big bold black letters. I gave her lycopodium. Must have started working right away, because she didn't come and say, man, it's still killing me. I don't know if this is working. It's still killing me. She will tell me that. But she didn't say nothing again. 2 days later, I said, oh, by the way, how's your hernia? And she's still lifting people and stuff like that. And she said, oh, it's gone. And I still get amazed. Wow, it's gone? I gave you like a 30C or something, maybe a 200. And in a bottle of water, and she kept pounding it and taking it every 15 minutes, and probably forget, and then take it again an hour later, 10 hours, next day or something. But that thing was totally gone. Now, my brother-in-law had a hernia. I told a guy that once, and he was like, oh, lycopodium for hernia, no, that was for that right-sided hernia. My brother-in-law had a hernia. I don't know where it was. I didn't take a case of him, but I told him about that, and his could have been different. His could have been Aurum Metallicum. It's hard to say until you actually sit down and talk to the person. Flatus incarcerated. Now, this flatus incarcerated, that's what's going on with the heart disorders and the ascites. What is ascites again? I hate to take time to look this stuff up. It's probably, let's see. Oops, turn that down. Sorry about that. Get out of the way. Ascites. You usually don't have to know these things, but let's look it up just to see. Ascites is abdominal swelling, okay, from accumulation of fluid. Okay, so they've got a lot of swelling going on. And it's probably from this incarcerated flatus. I know when I get gas in my stomach, my heart aches, you know, until I can actually, it's not incarcerated anymore. It's coming out. And when I fart and that, and it goes, it's like, whew, my heart feels better. Stinging pain in the back, lumbar muscles pain and stiff. So that the lower back is stiff and painful, and it's a stinging pain. Now that would bring about apis. I would think of apis if they said the pain is stinging. You think of a bee. Apis is bee venom, and you think of a bee, they sting you. So that stinging pain, apis could be one, along with Aurum metallicum. Lower muscles are stiff and painful. Tension in neck as if short, even at rest. So it feels like the neck is, the tension in the neck is short. Uh, there's not enough, there's a lot of tension in the neck, let's put it that way. Even at rest, doesn't go away. Aching in left side of chest, crushing weight under sternum. Worse ascending, so worse walking up a hill, walking up steps, that weight, crushing weight in the sternum. And that, yeah, that could be why they want to get out in open air and try to get breath, because they got this crushing weight. And there's an aching on the left side of the chest with congestion. So there's a lot of congestion there. Obstinate fetid otorrhea in the ears. So the ears have this pus coming out, and it stinks, and it's after scarlatina. Now, scarlatina comes from strep throat. So anybody that had strep throat, if it's not taken care of properly, they will get scarlatina. And, even if you take care, while they have this scarlatina, they got this fetid, this smelly discharge coming out of their ears. So, and I've got, what is it? Scarlatina, strep throat, streptococcus. Strep is, it's a bug. Streptococcus is the actual bug that causes strep throat. And if I figure someone has strep throat, and I can go by symptoms, I don't have to have a test done or anything. Usually the symptoms will tell me. I give them streptococcus, which I've given my wife a lot. She hasn't had strep throat in a long time, because I've given her the proper remedy. I gave her streptococcus, cleared up the strep throat, didn't get scarlatina, doesn't have that discharge. So that discharge coming from scarlatina after not having strep throat taken care of properly. Flow of fetid pus. So that's that pus, that otorrhea, that pus coming out of the ear, and they have hardness of hearing. Extreme photophobia, that's a 3. Now, a few medicines have photophobia. Natmer, a few other ones can't take sunlight, can't take any kind of light. This one is extreme. So Aurum metallicum, if they just can't handle any kind of light, that's a 3. Upper half of objects are invisible. So when they're looking, the upper half of the objects they can't see them. It's, it's like they can only see the lower half. And they have vascular cornea, which is the blood vessels are growing. The blood vessels are, so they would have bloodshot eyes, I would imagine. Sticking pains are inward. So the sticking pains are inward in the eyes. There was something else I wanted to say there. Invisible. Oh, and I think they also have black spots. Well, anyways, we won't. I got too much to get to. Inflamed bones of the face. The face is congested and bluish red. That's why I say there's a lot of blood rushing to the face and head up there, and it's bluish red. So they got a blue tint and a redness to it. It's puffy and shiny, almost like it's shiny like there's sweat on it, but the face is all congested and puffed up. The bones are inflamed, and the bones of the ears. I didn't put that down because there's not enough room for everything. But the bones of the ears, the bones of the face, they're all inflamed and painful. Tearing in facial bones. There's that tearing. So that it's like a tearing pain in the facial bones and in the ear bones. What are those? I forget what the ear bones are called. Anyways. I think I'll read it later if I get to it. Amenorrhea with great sadness. So the amenorrheas, their periods don't come. And if they do come, they're very scanty. So they barely are bleeding. So if you were to give Aurum metallicum, you would cause that flow to come, and the sadness would probably go away. So they have infertility, and it's from the sadness. They can't get pregnant from the sadness, and they're sad because of the barrenness. So it's a vicious cycle where they're sad, they can't get pregnant because of that sadness, and that sadness they're more sad because of their barrenness, and they have a lot of uterine disorders with depression and tendency to suicide. That's a 3. So this woman is very depressed because of the uterine disorders of not having their period, not being able to have a baby, or they even have this. They When I read it, they said they have a prolapsed uterus and things like that. So a lot of uterine problems with the Aurum metallicum. Leucorrhea is profuse, corroding, and yellow. Corroding is it's like corroding the tissue, and it's yellow. So a lot of female troubles, a lot of ear troubles, eye troubles, and a lot of grief and mental depression with all that. They desire milk and coffee. Why would that be? Why would you? That doesn't seem like a medical thing, but that could help you to distinguish or differentiate between a couple different medicines. So if you looked up a depression and you had all these medicines, one might be they like sour foods, one might be they like sweets, one might be they like salt, like nat myrrh. Nat myrrh is salt, and they would like salty foods, and there's also a depression there. But this one desires milk and coffee. Appetite and thirst is increased with qualmishness. So they have nausea, but their appetite and thirst is greater. Loathing of food, especially meat. So they're having a hard time eating because of this qualmishness, this nausea, basically is what that is. But their appetite is great. But they loathe food because of that qualmishness. Head, violent pain in head worse at night. So usually sunset to sunrise, everything's worse, but the violent pain in head and worse at night, that's the only one that's basically, I think, that is worse at night. This violent pain in their head. So they got this headache, basically. Outward pressure causing confusion. So this violent pain is a pressure pushing outward of the head. Pain of bones extend the face. So the pain in the bones of the head extend onto the face, and it's also in the ear. Baldness from syphilis. So someone has syphilis, they have baldness. Aurum metallicum could help with that. Headache in students with precordial anxiety. So they've got this heart stuff going on with a headache from all the studying and the anxiety of taking tests and things like that. And they have flushes, the anxiety and flushes. So there's a bunch of flushing of blood up into the head with this anxiety and this headache in the precordial region. So anxiety in the heart region with a headache with flushes of blood up in the head. Boils on scalp. So they have these boils on their scalp, and they don't have to have all this. They can have certain ones. So if you're looking up, this guy has boils on the scalp, you look it up in the repertory, and it gives you Aurum metallicum and probably a few other ones. Now you got to go through and figure out which one would match the best. Or violent pain in head worse at night. You got that symptom, you go in and you look it up, and you might have some other things here, like the baldness from syphilis or something like that. So you're always trying to get at least 3 different symptoms that are, to get an actual to a medicine. They have high blood pressure. Sensation as if heart stopped beating. That's all a 3, that high blood pressure. Then they have sensation as if heart stopped beating. That's a 3. And pulse is rapid, feeble, and irregular. So it's not a steady pulse. It's very light, but it's rapid. It's fast, irregular, not always the same speed, basically. Those are all 3s. Great heart remedy. Painful retention of urine with urgent inclination to urinate. So they want to go, it's painful retention, holding it is painful, and they have this inclination, urgent inclination. They have to run to go to the bathroom because it's so painful holding it. Pressure in the bladder. So this is all from the bladder stuff. And the urine's turbid or dark. Paralytic tearing in the joints. Knees are weak. Trembling of feet. Hot bruises in the soles. Foul foot smell. I know a buddy that had foul foot smell. He could have probably used Aurum metallicum, or there's a few other ones that could be. Hot, painful in the liver. They have hepatitis. liver with heart symptoms. So there's a lot of heart stuff. This heart symptoms, it's almost a concomitant from the abdomen, from the liver. All these symptoms are relating to the heart. What was the other one? Headache with from anxiety, uh, precordial anxiety. They got this headache going on. So headaches with heart stuff, liver stuff with the heart, and what was the other one? There's a few of them. Anyways, there's a concomitant there. Heart stuff leading to a lot of this other stuff. Abdomen, I think it's the abdomen with heart. Heart disorders, yeah. Um, with the swelling, ascites is just swelling of the abdomen. Okay, so they have a cough from want of breath. So that's one, they want to get out in the cool air, and they get this cough because they can't get enough breath. And this is at night also. So this is at night, and the other one's at night. What was it? The headache. Yeah, the headache's at night, and the cough is at night. They can't get enough breath, and they have a tough yellow mucus in the morning. So they wake up, they got this tough yellow mucus they're coughing up. Dyspnea, worse laughing, and at night. They have mucus in the trachea, hard to remove, so they're hawking it. And hawking means they're, when you try to, you're trying to pull up mucus. I can't do it. You're trying to pull up mucus out of the throat, and it's very thick, and it's hard to remove. Pain and swelling. Now, Cali-Bic, a few other ones have that type of situation. Pain and swelling in the testicles. So the testicles will swell up and there's pain in them. Atrophy of testicles in boys. So the testicles are basically not working. uh, Orchitis, which is a viral bacterial in the testicles. Hydrocele, which is swelling of the testicles of children. And they have a bubo canker. That's from gonorrhea. Anybody that has a bubo canker, this is one of the remedies, or Metallicum, that can be considered. What time? 21 minutes. Okay. Fetid smell, like rotten cheese coming out of the mouth. Ulceration of gums. That could be a mercury thing. Ulceration of palate. So the top of the mouth, they have an ulceration up there too. Gums are dark red or bleeding. That's why I say mercury has a lot of that. Inflammation and decay of the nose, inflammation of the nose, decay with fetid discharge. So the decay of the bones of the nose. A lot of bones. This is a big bone remedy, which I'll get to in a second. Decay of the bones of the ear, the mastoid. That's what it is. The mastoid bones in the ears are decaying. The face is having bone pains. They're having decay of the bones in the nose, and they got a smelly discharge coming out of the nose, just like they have a smelly discharge in the mouth. Ulcerated, painful. That's a 3. So there's ulcers and pain in the nose. Horrible odor is a 3. Sensitive to smell. So they can't take smells. Carbolic acid is another remedy along with Aurum metallic for that, sensitive to smell. They can't take smells. Constipation. Stool is large, hard, and knotty. Worse during menses. So a woman having menses, they have this stool. They're very constipated with large, hard, knotty stools. Our Metallicum can help that. Warts around the anus. So you'd think of thuja for warts, but our Metallicum has them around the anus. Nightly diarrhea with burning in rectum. Cat must have wiped that part of this. Nightly diarrhea with burning in rectum. So yeah, this burning would, you consider like arsenicum and different things. Causticum would be burning in the rectum also. So there's 3 medicines that you would consider with this nightly diarrhea. So everything's worse sunset to sunrise except for the headaches, the diarrhea, and what was the other one? They can't breathe. They get a cough and they can't breathe at night. Probably need to get out in the cool air. Acne. Oh, yeah. Acne, large red pimples on the face. Aurum metallicum. This might have been good for the one lady I was doing singing with. I felt so bad. She was a pretty young girl, but had all these pimples on her face, and I'm sure that was such a problem for her. And I really would love to reach out to her again and, give her a medicine. But, how do you approach somebody and mention that? I don't know. Lymphoma. My dog has lymphoma. I could, it's a fatty lump. He got a fatty lump on his chest. I might try some Aurum metallicum. What do? You can't take a case with a dog. You can't ask him questions. All you can do is observe. And that's the big thing in homeopathy. You are observing patients. That's why this guy Björn from Sweden. I think he's from Sweden. I was on a call with him yesterday, and he said the most important thing is when a person comes in, and my mentor Robin Murphy, he said the same thing. You want to perceive the state of this person. Are they anxious? Are they depressed? Are they, you get that state when they come in. How does the room feel when they come in? Are they very friendly? Are they very stern? Are they, what is that state? That can lead you to a group of remedies right off the bat. you know Depression, the person comes in, they feel depressed, you're already thinking Aurum, Metallicum, Ignatia, Nat Myrrh, a few different remedies like that. You're already considering those remedies when they come in, because those are the ones you have in your mind. That's the one, some of the keynotes of these medicines. But this fatty lump and lipoma on my dog has it on his chest. This could be one remedy. I think I tried one already. I forget what it was, but that's what I would look up. I would look up chest, uh, lymphoma, or fatty. Yeah, probably it would be lymphoma. Um, when I looked that up, now if you had a lymphoma on the leg, you'd look up leg lymphoma. So all that kind of stuff. So warts. You think of thuja for warts, but Aurum metallicum is another wart remedy, and there's a few other ones. Pustules on face, neck, and chest. Pustules is almost like a pimple, but it's got pus in it. Formication over body. Formication's like little, numbness, like little tingling, like bugs running all over the body. So they have formication over the body, itching in abdomen, hips, knees, arms, and wrists. So that's very interesting that, those areas, abdomen, hips, doesn't leave a whole lot of things out. Maybe legs are left out, face is left out, different things like that. But this is where the itching would be. The abdomen, hips, knees, arms, and wrists. So bones, destruction like secondary syphilis. And syphilis will destroy the bones. Whether you had syphilis, or whether, it's an inherited miasm from your family having syphilis. And you usually won't find that out, because most people will not come in and say, you won't say, oh, did grandpap have syphilis? They're not going to tell you that. But secondary syphilis. Now, that's secondary is you didn't have it, but you had a miasm from inheriting it. Pain in bones of head, decay of nasal bones, palatine, mastoid bones. That's that ear bones. Better in open air, worse at night. So the bones also have worse at night. Tongue is leathery, hard, swollen, dry, and ulcerated. Warts on tongue. That's interesting. I don't know too many medicines that have warts on tongue. I didn't realize Aurum metallicum was such a wart remedy. Arteriosclerosis. That should have been up in the medical. I missed that. Sorry. So that's, plaque in the veins. So it's good for arteriosclerosis. And they want self-destruction, whether it's drinking, alcohol, drugs, whatever. They're just sex, they just do all this self-destructive behavior. Chronic insomnia with depression, and they will, when they're having their dreams and that, they will talk out loud. Swelling of epigastrium, that's the stomach again, burning and hot belching, uneasiness, decay, looseness of teeth, toothache, worse at night, and cold air. Painfully sensitive to cold, this is the temperature, coldness of body. Stitches with swallowing, when swallowing in the throat, pains in the glands, decay of the palate, the bone of the mouth, top of the mouth, stinging and swallowing in the throat. I would consider apis with the stinging when they're swallowing, and vertigo is worse, stooping as if turning in circles, and they fall to the left. I don't have very much time, but we're going to try to get into some of the comments. Boring pains and burning. Stitches predominate. Boring pains and burning predominate. The head is giddy, full, hot. Rush of blood to the head. Vertigo as if turning in circles when stooping. Goes off on rising. So they're stooping, they get vertigo, they get up, and it goes away. As if drunk when walking in the open air. Sensation as if a current of air were rushing through the head, if not kept warm. Bones of skull are painful, especially lying down. Vertigo, half sight. That's it. They don't see things on the, they only see the bottom part, not the top. Fiery sparks, decay of mastoid process of bones of nose. Uh, Ozana in the abdominal region, as with mercury, there is swelling of liver, jaundice, hernia. So mercury homeopathically and Aurum Metallicum would be considered with the swelling of the liver, jaundice, hernia inguinal or umbilical, and in children, onanism is masturbation. They want to masturbate a lot. The sexual organs are markedly affected. Induration of testes, undeveloped testicles in puny boys, swelling or neuralgia of testicles, uterus prolapsed and indurated. The weight of it causes prolapses. The chloride of gold and sodium acts more powerfully in these conditions. So chloride of gold, that's the next one, Aurum moraticum. That'll be tomorrow's. And that acts more effectively, powerfully in these conditions of prolapse of uterus and that. So that'll be tomorrow. Suffocative attacks with oppression of chest, anxious palpitations from congestion to the chest, palpitations with anguish and tremulous fearfulness, pain in heart region extended down left arm to fingers. There are boring pains in bones, worse at night, hysterical spasms with laughing and crying alternately. Hypersensitive to all pains, great ebullitions with congestion to the head and chest and palpitations of the heart. Frightful dreams, he sobs aloud when asleep. Chilliness predominates. Shivering in open air, coldness of hands and feet, sometimes lasting all night. Heat only in the face. Perspiration in the morning hours, mostly on and around genitals. Paralytic drawing in the limbs in the morning when awakening and on getting cold. So a lot of these things I'm 2 minutes over. Well, it's a long medicine, so there's a lot more to this medicine. But yeah, when you're considering medicines, you need a lot of these different things. Now, you can use a keynote for each medicine to find it. Just like I said, I looked up with my wife with her hernia was right-sided hernia, lycopodium took care of it. So it can be that easy. Other times, like her foot, she got a bump on her foot. It's most likely tendons and that. And I've been trying all kinds of different remedies for this, and I'm probably not looking at it right. I'm looking at all kinds of different things, but it can sometimes be elusive. Now, the doctors, the doctors, they don't have nothing to do. They're like, they didn't give her no medicine. They didn't say this or that. Mainly, they probably just said, stay off your foot. How are you going to do that? So they don't have anything for it. So homeopathically, it didn't work. It didn't work. Someone says it doesn't work. Well, I got to try a few different remedies. I got to keep taking the case and I'm not getting a lot of good symptoms from her. If I would get a pain, it's burning, it's stinging, stabbing, that helps. But it just aches. I don't know. I can't figure it out. So it can, on one end, homeopathy can be that simple to, hernia is gone in 2 days, headache's gone in 10 minutes from arsenicum after she took 10 Tylenol PM. Other times, her foot, I cannot figure it out. Even I talked to some homeopaths, and they agreed with some of the remedies I'm going for. But yeah, this is there's some unusual things that can be quite difficult to figure out. So, anyways, that's our Metallicum. That is homeopathic medicine for the morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old. Well, 4 minutes over. Well, it's a big medicine, so